There's a piece of advice about rattlesnakes that hikers have passed around for over 50 years. Park rangers have repeated it. Police officers have repeated it. A poison control center repeated it. And a new scientific study has just confirmed that it is completely, dangerously wrong. Worse than that, believing it has led people to take risks they never should have taken and has affected the medical care that snakebite victims received. So today, we're setting the record straight on one of the most persistent myths in the natural world. And the truth flips the whole thing on its head. Here's the myth. You've almost certainly heard some version of it. It goes like this: a baby rattlesnake is more dangerous than a full-grown adult. And the reason given is always the same. Young snakes supposedly haven't learned to control their venom yet. So when they bite, they dump everything they have in one go. An adult, by contrast, is experienced. It knows how to hold back. So the little one, the harmless-looking one, is the one that will really hurt you. It sounds logical. It has that satisfying, counterintuitive ring that makes a fact feel true. And it has been repeated so many times that it became accepted wisdom, especially among hikers and campers in the American Southwest. There's just one problem. Researchers have now examined it properly, and it falls apart completely. The study came out of Loma Linda University, led by biology professor William Hayes along with colleague Cale Morris. And it was published in the scientific journal Toxins. It was significant enough that the journal marked it as an editor's choice selection. And it's been picked up by science outlets around the world over the past several months. And the researchers did something clever. They didn't just test the biology. They investigated the myth itself, where it came from, how it spread, and what damage it has actually caused. Let's start with the science, because this is where it gets interesting. The core claim of the myth is that baby rattlesnakes cannot control how much venom they release. Scientists call this the venom dump idea, and it turns out to be false. Baby rattlesnakes can absolutely meter their venom. Research using high-speed recordings of defensive strikes has shown that juveniles regulate how much venom they inject just as capably as adults do. This isn't a skill they slowly learn over years. It's essentially built in, present from the moment they're born. And there's a beautifully logical reason for that. Venom is expensive. Producing it takes real metabolic energy. A snake has to build complex proteins and enzymes from scratch, burning calories that could otherwise go toward growing or reproducing. So evolution has every reason to make snakes careful with it. A snake that wasted its entire venom supply every time something startled, it would be at a serious disadvantage. Conservation isn't a learned habit, it's an inherited necessity. In fact, here's a detail that surprises most people. A large share of defensive bites from rattlesnakes contain little or no venom at all. These are called dry bites, and depending on the study, they can account for anywhere from roughly a fifth to half of defensive strikes. And crucially, both adults and juveniles do it. That alone tells you young snakes are making choices about their venom, not blindly emptying the tank. But here's where the myth doesn't just fail, it gets completely inverted. Because the researchers found that adult rattlesnakes are generally the more dangerous ones. And the reason comes down to simple geometry. A rattlesnake's venom glands sit behind its eyes, connected to its hollow fangs by muscular ducts. They're modified salivary glands, and as a snake grows, those glands don't just get longer. They expand in all three dimensions at once. Think about what that means. Length is one dimension, but volume grows with the cube of size. So a snake that doubles in length doesn't carry twice as much venom. It carries roughly 8 times more. An adult rattlesnake is therefore working with a vastly larger reservoir than a juvenile, and when it does choose to inject, it delivers far more. Which is exactly what clinical data shows. Bites from adult rattlesnakes tend to produce more severe symptoms and require more intensive medical treatment than bites from young ones. So the small snake you were taught to fear most is generally carrying the smaller threat. Which raises an obvious question. If the science was never on the myth side, where on earth did it come from? This is the part of the study I find genuinely fascinating. The researchers dug through around 130 newspaper accounts published between the year 1900 and today, tracing how rattlesnakes were described over more than a century. And they found something remarkable. Before the late 1960s, the reporting was mostly accurate. Newspapers generally got the science right. Then, sometime around the late 60s, the venom dump claim appeared, and it caught fire. It spread through newspapers, then into outdoor lore, then into the general culture. It took particularly strong hold in California, where it became almost gospel among hikers, campers, and outdoor enthusiasts. But here's the detail that makes this a lesson for all of us. The myth didn't spread mainly through gossip or folklore. It spread through trusted sources. The study found it being repeated by police officers, by park rangers, even by a poison control center. These are exactly the people you would go to for reliable safety information, and they were passing along something that had no scientific basis, in complete good faith, because they heard it from other credible-sounding sources. That's how misinformation really works. Not through obvious nonsense, but through respectable channels repeating something nobody stopped to verify, and it stuck. Surveys conducted as part of this research found that a large proportion of people, including nearly half of college students in one sample, still believed it. So, does it actually matter? The researchers say yes, and their reasoning is sobering. They describe a myth that has produced fear, panic, and genuine real-world consequences. When people believe the small snake is the deadly one, they may treat a large rattlesnake as less of a threat, and take risks around it they never should. When someone is bitten by a juvenile, unnecessary terror sets in. And most seriously, medical decisions can be affected, with treatment shaped by misinformed expectations, sometimes under pressure from frightened patients or families operating on bad information. A wrong belief about a snake ended up influencing how humans were cared for in emergency rooms. Now let me be absolutely clear about the takeaway, because this matters. None of this means baby rattlesnakes are safe. That is not the message. Every rattlesnake bite, from a snake of any size or age, is a serious medical emergency requiring immediate professional treatment. The correct response to any rattlesnake is the same as it always was. Give it space, leave it alone, and if a bite occurs, get medical help straight away. What the study actually corrects is the ranking. Don't assume a small snake is a harmless one, and don't assume a large one is somehow more restrained. Treat them all with equal respect. If this changed something you believed, hit that like button and subscribe to Wild Codex, because we uncover the untold stories of Earth's most fascinating creatures.